A few years back, Connections was less than a year old, and we stumbled upon a great deal for my family. We were trying to plant a church and make it financially and all the challenges that come along with it. And I met a guy who sold used stuff, and he had 60 TVs. Maybe some of you have heard this. He had 60 TVs that were unworking, you know what I mean. And so I purchased, for $10 a piece, 60 flat screen TVs. This was a picture of my living room right after we purchased these TVs. And so I brought them in. You see the bright yellow stickers. That was, we went through and labeled each one. There were so many of them. There's more than you can see in that picture, but there's so many of them, we couldn't keep track of everything. And so we made a master list of every model, and then we assigned it a number. And we did this when we first got it. The first night, in-laws were in town. I remember that. They kind of helped me, went through some stuff. And after everyone had left, everyone went to bed, I was eager to try to fix my first TV. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never opened a TV. I'd never taken electronics. I knew nothing, but I was going to try. So on my list of TVs, I found 3 of them that were identical numbers, and it took me a while to locate the 3 amongst the mess, but I found the 3 identical TVs, and they all had different symptoms. So I knew that if I worked hard enough and long enough, I could make a TV come on, and that was going to be exciting. This was 5 years ago when these things were still selling for a lot of money, and so I was excited about it. And so I laid them side by side. I opened them all up. I saw all the parts. I had no idea what they were, but there they were, and I knew that if I put the right parts in the right place, that this TV would come on. So I began working. I began swapping parts, and I'd unscrew parts and put them back in. I put all the screws back in every time, and I just took forever. So about 2 or 3 in the morning, after everyone else was long gone, me and my Mountain Dew were working hard. Jesus was there too, and I was like, all right, this has got to be it, because I'd paid attention to which part it come from. I mean, it was just a big process of trial and error, but I kind of kept track as I went, and I set it up, and I had this like this is going to be it. I knew I plugged it in, and I hit the button, and I sat there. And nothing. I mean, I wanted it to work. Like, I had great expectations. I believed, I had faith in that TV. Didn't work. So I was like, one more time. So I took it apart, and I added some other parts and swapped some parts, and I was pretty sure this one was bad, so I tossed it out completely. And so then again, at about 4 in the morning, I don't know what time it was, but it was in the morning, and picked it up, plugged it in, and a second time I hit the button, and nothing happened. And I almost gave up. I said, you know what? Maybe this isn't worth messing with. I definitely know I'm not very good at fixing TVs. And so the last time, swapped a few more parts. I set it up there. The sun was not up, but the sky was turning light. And I remember hitting the button with the same expectations I had the first time and the second time. And I hit the button, and there it came up. Big blue screen with white letters, the name of the company that made the screen. I was so excited. I felt like I had cured cancer. I thought this was the greatest thing ever. And I had some hope, and I went to bed exhausted and tired, but happy. I know it's a goofy analogy, but here's what I think. I feel like at Connections, we're about 6 years old, not quite 6 years old yet. And we've had some great things happen, but I don't feel like the right parts are in the right place quite yet. And so we swap a few more things, and we boot up one more time, and we go, is this it? Is this what we've been waiting for? And every time we do it, we have great expectations, and every time we do it, we have faith, and every time we do it, we believe this is going to be it. So today we're making a few changes. Today we're swapping a few parts of the Connections puzzle in order what we believe is to grow a church. Now, I use this phrase, grow a church, and instantly some of us begin to fight that. That makes us feel a little bit uncomfortable. The truth is, and I said this last week, but I think it bears repeating. For those of you who are new to Connections, we had this talk 2 years ago, and I said, listen, we're a great church of 60 or a great church of 70 or whatever we were at the time, but I said, there's more people who don't know Jesus, and there's more people who are looking for a community, and there's more people who want to be involved in something like this, but we've got to be willing to step a little bit out of our comfort zone in order to reach those. And team, I'm telling you, there are more people that are going to be here next week, and there's more people that are going to be here a year from now, and it's going to be because you and I agreed to make a few changes and be a little bit uncomfortable to reach a few more people. I want to start with our new mission statement. We've never really had one before, so this is it. Connections Community is called to creatively share the life-altering gospel of Jesus Christ with Meridian, the Treasure Valley, and throughout the world. Connections Community is called to creatively share the life-altering gospel of Jesus Christ with Meridian, the Treasure Valley, and throughout the world. This is it for us. Pretty simplistic, right? This is us. We want to share the gospel. I want everyone to understand what it means to accept Jesus Christ. I want everyone in Meridian to understand what it means to have full forgiveness, to understand what it means to be free, to have that freedom that you and I have. And there are literally people within a block of this church. There are people right behind the building and people right across the street who aren't at church right now and don't plan on going to church next week and don't know anything about Jesus and could care less about Jesus. And maybe they've seen a cross or maybe they heard a little something at a funeral one time, but they really have no idea. Well, that's about to change. It's going to be our goal to reach as many of these people as possible. Now, understand that we can't save them. We can't even convict them. We can do none of these things. John 6:44 says this. No man can come to me except the Father, which has sent me, draw him. It's not our job to save people. It will never be our job to save people. But it is our job to let them know. Romans 10:14 says this. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear unless somebody is preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. This is our job. This is our job as a community, as a church. It's our job to let other people know who God is. We've already set up some things that are going to happen this next year where we're going to reach out to these communities behind us. Maybe it's via postcard, maybe it's via door hanger, whatever, but we are going to reach out to them. Now, this won't be easy. This won't be easy. But this is what you and I are called to do. Our exec pastor, Jeremy, he felt like the Lord was leading him to make sure that the people around him in his neighborhood, the people that he lived close to, knew that he was there and knew that he loved them and knew that God loved them. And so Jeremy did this. I love this. This is amazing. Jeremy printed some letters. They look like this. It says, Merry Christmas, neighbor. My name is Jeremy, and my family and I live in this neighborhood with you. And he began to share a little bit about who he was. And I love what he put on here. He said, I didn't want to bug you because I know on a Saturday you're watching football and enjoying your free time. And he said, I didn't want to bother you, but I wanted you to know I'm in the neighborhood. And if you have any prayer requests or anything I can help with, or if you have any practical needs that maybe we can help with, would you let us know? And then he sent out 80 of these, I think, a bunch of these. And at the bottom, he's got his phone number, and he even said, this was great, he goes, if you're nervous to meet with me, I put a box by my front door. Feel free to drop a prayer request. Isn't that great? Right? I'm like, why? This is the heart of Connections. This is what we are called to do. We can't save anybody, ever. I didn't die on a cross, and you didn't either. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. But we need to allow people to know who Jesus is. That's it. Once somebody knows and fully understands, this is how I accept Christ, and this is what forgiveness looks like, our job is done, and the Holy Spirit will take over from there. This won't be easy. I'm not even sure it's possible. It may take some help from some other churches, but it is my goal starting today that we figure out how every citizen who lives in Meridian can understand the gospel of Jesus, or at least have the opportunity to understand the gospel of Jesus. Maybe it's some type of DVD that's left at their door. Maybe it's an email, maybe whatever. We're figuring out the practicals, but it starts today, and we're going to do it. So that's our mission. We are called to creatively share the life-altering gospel of Jesus Christ with Meridian, the Treasure Valley, and maybe eventually, if God would lead us, throughout the world. Now, in a second, I'm going to share some specifics with you on what we're going to be doing to do some of that. But I want to look at a couple of our core values first. These are things that we've had in place, but we have never really organized correctly, and now they are. We have 3 core values that will not change. Number 1 is this: everyone is welcome here. Everyone is welcome. No matter what you believe or don't believe, no matter your political agenda, whatever, you are welcome in this place. And not welcome in such a way that we will treat you like a guest or a visitor, but welcome in such a way that once you've been here a couple of weeks, you're one of us. You have refrigerator rights. You can make decisions and help out, and you can serve. And whatever you want to do, you are welcome here. We will treat you like family and not like an outsider. The passage of Scripture that we have kind of founded connections on comes from Colossians 4. And this is Paul. He writes as he's in prison, and he's writing to a little church that he started, and he's like, listen, here's what you need to do. Here's the keys, Paul says, to growing a church or to reaching more people, whatever. This is it. This is what you need to know. He says, be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. Outsiders meaning people who don't belong to the church. Be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. And may your conversation be always full of grace and seasoned with salt. Then you will know how to answer everyone. Paul says, this is great. He's saying this is great wisdom. It's how we've really founded connections. It's on this foundation, this verse. That you and I, as new people come in, that we are a grace-filled church, meaning that we don't judge them for how they dress or what they believe or what car they drive or anything else. We'll love them just the way they are. That we are a grace-filled church. And that's tough. That's a challenge. That's messy, right? It's been messy. Over the years, we've had some mess. We've had some people come in. Some of them get cleaned up and stay. Some of them don't. They go back to their old ways, whatever. We're just here to let them know that God loves them. We love them. So it's going to be messy sometimes, and we're okay with that. And the second one is that we're an encouraging church. He says seasoned with salt, and really the meaning there is that we encourage one another, that we lift each other up, that we believe and expect great things in each other's lives. And if we can treat every person that comes through the door with those 2 things, they will feel welcome here. Team, we do a great job at that. That may be what we do best over anything else, is that we love people. You guys are super encouraging and super friendly. Number 2, everyone is called to serve. Everyone is called to serve. We believe that if you are saved, if you know Jesus, if he lives in your heart, and even if you don't, if you're on a journey and you're chasing after God, you are called to serve in some way. You're not saved to sit, you're saved to serve. If you know Jesus, it's expected that you're part of the solution here. If you come every single week and you're just soaking it in, you may be in a season where you need that. I get that. But our goal for you is once you are healthy, that you're involved in some way, that you are helping with kids' ministries, that you're maybe helping during the week with something, that you're pushing buttons in the back. There's so many things that we could use help with. And if you're saved, you're called to be part of that. You can't just come here and just veg. Again, some of us are healing, I understand. But most of us, we need to be in the mix. The third one is this. I believe that everyone is a minister. Look at your neighbor and tell him, you're a minister. Go. Do it again, but act like you mean it. I believe all of us, if you know Jesus, if you've been forgiven of your sins, listen up. I believe all of us, if you've been forgiven of your sins, that you can be a minister, a pastor, whatever words you want to use. The Bible uses the word elder sometimes, uses overseer sometimes, uses a lot of different words, but that you can be a minister here. And I know that's scary, and your instant reaction is, but I don't know enough about the Bible. welcome to the club. Or, you know what, I may say something that I shouldn't say. I've done that a lot. You've heard it yourself. You know, there are tons of excuses that will keep you from being a minister, but we believe that you have the potential to do so. It could be in leading Bible studies and not necessarily for connections. Maybe you start a little Bible study at your workplace or in your neighborhood like Jeremy has offered to do. You can listen to people, you can counsel people, you can help people that are going through loss, you can take meals over to people that are struggling. There are so many things that you can do to be a minister. If you know Jesus, we want to put you on a track where you can feel confident to be a minister. I know you're thinking, he's not talking about me, but I am. I'm talking about you. If you're in this room and you know Jesus, you can minister to people. You can pray with people. You can pray for people. You are capable of doing this. If you rely on Dusty and Jeremy and Jeff and Josh and a few other people and John to be your ministers, we are greatly limiting the impact of the gospel in our area, because you're saying, all right, I'm going to let these 5 guys do it, and I'll just support them. Whatever they need, I'll help them. No, I want you to be a minister. I want you to be willing to reach out and help the world around you. Now, here's how we're going to do that. I'm going to give you some very practical things that's coming up starting next week to help you be a light to dark places, because you can light up places I can't light up. Over the past few years, we have done something called Christianity 101. It's been kind of hit or miss. Sometimes it's been great. Sometimes a few people show up, but we believe in it. John Rote teaches this class. It's great. John is a great teacher. And he walks us through the basic disciplines of Christianity. And he starts with week 1, how do I know that I'm saved? How do I know that when I stop breathing here, I wake up in heaven? I want to know that. Because if you live in doubt, if you're constantly scared about what's going to happen, you can't be a light to dark places, because you spend all your time in doubt just trying to figure out, is there really a God, and do I really believe in him, and what's God? We're going to lay that out the very first week, as vulnerable as we can. This is it. This is what the Bible says. This is what you can believe in. This is what you can know for sure, that you can know that you know that you know that you know that you're saved and you're headed for heaven. And then throughout the course of about 8 to 10 weeks, depending on how long the curriculum takes, we'll walk you through how do I know that I'm saved, all the way to prayer and fasting and all the things that you need to know, the basics of Christianity. We're starting that next week, and here's what we've decided to do. We're going to have it before church at 9 o'clock. Now, a lot of you have kids. I get that, and it's a challenge just to get them out the door on a Sunday morning. I understand. We got 3 boys. And it's going to be a challenge. So we felt like if we put it on a Sunday morning, it takes you no more effort. Just get the kids up, get them out the door a little bit earlier. You're here, and we will have children's workers for you if we need them. If it's just older kids, they can, go break stuff in my office or whatever. But if you've got younger kids, we will make sure that they are cared for and provided for. And starting at 9 a.m. next week, Christianity 101 starts. If you haven't been through it, I'm asking you, get involved in this. It's going to grow your faith, and it's going to give you some really practical, tangible steps of faith. And this starts next week. And if you want in, please don't just I'll check it out. Make a commitment. I'm willing to be there for 8 weeks in a row. I'm willing to make it happen. We have a sign-up sheet that's out on the welcome table, and we have a sign-up sheet. I don't know if we have one in the back too, but there's some floating around here, I know. Take the time to fill that out. Say, yes, I'm in. We'll contact you this week and just chat with you, make sure you don't have any questions or whatever. And that will start next week at 9 o'clock. It'll go till about 10 o'clock. And then we have a few minutes before service kicks off. Now, that's what we consider step 1. Step 2 is this. Once you've been through that class, if you're willing to go through it, it's 10 weeks, doesn't cost you $1. It's going to grow your faith. It's going to be great. If you're willing to go through the 10 weeks, at the end of the 10 weeks, we want to disciple you. One-on-one, true discipleship. Me and you sitting across a table, eating some Taco Bell, talking about Jesus. all right? I have already talked to a handful of guys, Jeremy and John, and a handful of women. My wife and Laura Rode and Allegra have all said that they're in on this, that they're willing to help disciple us. And we have some material that we feel strong about, that we really like. And the difference between this and 101, this is a little deeper, and it's very personal. It's the two of us really walking and living out faith together. But we won't invest in you. We won't buy these meals. We won't invest our time unless you're willing to go through the 101. We consider that kind of a vetting process. Show us that you're serious, and then we want to invest specifically in you to grow you as a minister because we believe that you're capable of doing great ministry. These two things are major changes for us. We have always kind of had a discipleship track, but it's never been really clear and concise, and this is it for us. For the next year at least, we're going to be doing sessions of 101, and then we're going to be doing personal discipleship with you guys. So those are three philosophies. Everyone is welcome, everyone can serve, and everyone is a minister. We feel really great about this, and we're excited to see how God moves through it. It will be a challenge. I know that it will be. The enemy hates it when we grow our roots, but we're headed that direction. There's a couple of other minor changes that are coming your way. Last month, at the beginning of January, I took our staff up to McCall for an overnighter, and we talked about all the things we love about Connections, all the things that need to change about Connections. We laid out our sermon series for the next 14 months. We know exactly where God wants us to go. Some things may change, but we feel comfortable with where we are for the next 14 months. And we looked at some outreach ideas, what we're going to do to reach people and to reach these neighborhoods. We have a whole bunch of things on the calendar that we're excited about. But one of the questions I asked the staff, I said, in your area of ministry, what is it that we are investing a ton of time in, but we are getting nothing for? Like we are spinning our wheels. It's not helping us grow a church. It's not helping us disciple people. What is it that we are wasting a lot of time on? And we came up with two things that we think need to change. They are this: the snacks on a Sunday morning and our online campus. And let me break those out for you. We love sugar as much as the next guy, and I love having snacks back there. But what we felt after a lot of discussion was it really is a lot of effort getting it organized, and there have been weeks where they don't show up and somebody has to run to Albertsons and yada yada, and we just said, you know what, maybe this is something that we could let go and feel okay about it. And so we had some more discussion, and we came up with this. This is what we're going to start doing. The first weekend of every month for the next 12 months, the first weekend of every month, two things are going to happen. We're going to have snacks. By the way, we'll always have coffee, so don't worry about that. I know. Some of you were like, oh my word, I'm going to church down the street. We will always have coffee available, no worries there. But once a month, on the first weekend of every month, we will have snacks. If you're one of those people who like to, I know occasionally some of you just like cook something and bring it and toss it in the pile, and that's awesome for you. Save it for the first weekend of the month, and we'll have a small smorgasbord or whatever we can have back there. Also, on that first weekend of the month, we have purposely designed our preaching schedule to make sure that week one of every month we lay out the gospel of Jesus, that we make it as clear as possible, that we say all the awkward things that you don't want to say to your friends, and we'll explain to them that they are a sinner. I know you don't want to tell them that. I will tell them that. The Bible says that you're a sinner and that you need forgiveness and that Christ died for you, and I will explain that to them on the first weekend of every month. So what that means is if you have friends or family that you're like, man, I really want, they said they'll come to Connections one time. When is that going to be? If you aim for the first weekend of every month, it's the best time. Now, obviously, they're welcome at any time, and I don't think we're too over the top, but week one is really geared towards evangelism. And so invite people that first week. Even as we laid out our sermon series, there were certain weeks where it didn't fit, and so we brought in, we have a series that's going to run throughout the year that's just kind of random places, And we put it in there to make sure that the first weekend of every month we're laying out the gospel clearly. The second one that came up is the online campus. Honestly, this is a ton of work. Even this morning, we had to reboot a router and something. It sounds like it should be simple, and it's just complicated. For those of you that are watching at home, if anybody is, they put a lot of effort in to make sure you could hear this morning. So it's a lot of work. Having said that, after a lot of prayer and consideration, we feel led that we should keep it. And some of you are going, well, why do you even bring it up if you're not going to kill it? And the reason is this. Right now, it's extremely complicated, and it's not as great as it could be. And so we want to make it great. We believe in it long term, maybe not for the next few weeks, not that it's going to be great, but we believe long term it opens up doors for more people to find us, and even people who can't, that are bedridden, or even people that are sick, or even whatever, they have a community they can tune into and watch, and they can watch worship, and they can watch a sermon, they can get fed, and we believe in it long term over the next few years that it will grow to where a lot of people will tune in on a Sunday morning. So we want to make it simpler, and we want to make it better. In order to make it simpler, it takes money, and it can't come out of our general budget. Our general budget is too tight, and we don't feel like that's what we're supposed to do. So maybe God would lead some of us in this room to help out with that, to say, you know what, I'm willing to donate some money in order to make it simpler. Right now we're using a free service, and it's just so complicated and we do it to save money, but we're going to have to pull the trigger and do it right. Secondly, we could use some help to make it great. And right now there's one gentleman most likely back there, and he's trying to run the computer, and like when the videos go up, he's got to do that, and he's trying to run the camera at the same time, and it's just a lot. So maybe you would feel led to help out with that. It literally means just like sitting behind a camera and, pointing it at the tall white guy walking around the stage. It's pretty simple. But we want to make it better. We want to make it simpler. And if you feel led to help us out with that, talk to me, and we will figure it out together. Lastly, getting close to the end here, we have a new logo. And I want to show it to you. It looks like this, and I want to talk to you about it. There's some things in there that have changed from what we've done in the past, and I want to tell you why. The first one, and this is a big one, we added the word church to what we do. And we wrestled with this. For those of you who are new here, we have long said that we're not a church. Biblically speaking, the church is the ekklesia, that's the Greek word, and it means a body of believers, or it means a global body of believers. So it can be like a specific to the church of Thyatira, or it can mean like every believer, like every tongue, tribe, and language. And so you have those two definitions, and we felt like at Connections, we were not just a body of believers, but that we are open to whoever wants to come in the door. You can have a seat at the table and be part of us. And so we have avoided the word church for biblical reasons. But even last night, as I was finishing up some things on this, I was kind of processing this in the presence of God, just double checking with him. Now, God, are you sure this is a big shift for us to add the word church? And I felt good about it. The reason we're adding this word church is because there's a lot of people who are looking for a Christian community. They're looking for what in the English language we know as church, this group of people building a Sunday morning place of gathering. And when we don't put that on there, it confuses people. They're not sure who we are or what we are. The other complication with the old logo is, and I've heard some of you say this that are here now, like, we didn't even know you were a church. Like, we thought maybe it was a coffee house or like a singles place, Connections. And so this helps us get rid of the confusion that by and large we are a Christian community of people. The second thing that you'll notice as we put together this graphic, you'll notice it makes a CX, which has always been kind of what we called Connections. But on the left side, you'll notice that the nose sticks out. And typically, if you're a design guy, you know that's a ridiculous thing. It should obviously be in the box. But we just feel like this is symbolic for us to remind us that we're not a church that's about being in the box, about being here, that we're constantly out. And listen, if there's one thing, there's a lot of things I'm proud of. We're a super friendly church and a few things I've talked about, but we are great at reaching out and loving people. And I was thinking last night, you think about over the last, say, 2 years, the free garage sales that we've done, the Christian Children's Ranch, the free gift wrapping, we sung in a nursing home about 2 weeks ago. I mean, you start going through this list and get this. We have probably done more ministry outside of Connections than we have done inside of Connections. And that is great. We have reached, we have reached more people. We have reached more people than those that attend Connections. And imagine how this upscales, because this won't change, even if God blesses us and we get to be a church of thousands or whatever, then imagine how many more people we can reach, because we will continue to do ministry this way. So this is our new logo. We'll continue to take Jesus outside of here to love on people. The we're not a church philosophy. Let me just say that I still believe in the way that we're doing church. And even though if you take the biblical definition, Connections isn't a church, although none of them are, but we will still be a place where everyone is welcome. We just feel like those that are seeking a church and trying to find a place, they couldn't find us before, and we hope this will help. I am thankful. I thank God for you. I really do. I'm humbled. There's some weeks, the last 2 weeks ago, I think, we pulled in together, my wife and I, and normally we drive separately, but we were together and all the kids were with us, and we pulled into the parking lot, and this was an hour before service, and there was already a dozen cars, people that were here early, people that were getting the coffee ready so you and I could be caffeinated, people that were getting children's ministry organized and ready, people who were trying for the 1,000th time to get the online campus up and working. I mean, there were so many people here, and I was just humbled at the amount of servants that we have here that are helping make things go, and I am so thankful for you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, that the more that we as pastors and leaders give away responsibility, the more we can grow and the more that we can do, and thank you for doing that. 2 months ago, we did the 90-day challenge, and I feel like it was a huge spiritual boost for a lot of us in this room. I'm so proud of you for being faithful in your giving. It wasn't about the money. It was about just us trusting God in everything in our life. In the month of December, we didn't have any like big end of the year $1,000 gifts. We didn't have anything over the top. And yet we still made our budget for the first time. And that shows me a couple of things. It shows us that we're all in on this, and that it's all of us pitching in a little bit that is making a massive difference. And so for the first time ever since we put our budget to what it is, we made our budget. We are a debt-free church. We've always been a debt-free church. We spend what we have and not what we don't, and we will continue to live that way until we decide to buy a building, and then we'll figure that out. But we have been that way, and thank you for being faithful in your giving. This last year this last month, we sent some money out to our missionaries, and of course you guys know some of the stuff that we did with the Christian Children's Ranch, and it made a difference. It made a difference. Thank you for serving, for supporting, for giving, for pushing buttons, for teaching classes, for leading small groups, for cleaning the building, for loving on people. I feel like for the first time that we really have a strong core, like a foundation of people. And the decision you have to make in your heart is, do I want to be part of a community that really is going to reach people? Not one that just talks about it, not one that just says, hey, we do this, or we're thinking about, like, we're doing it. We're actually doing it. And it's going to be a little uncomfortable. We're going to have to continue to get outside that box and love on people, but it's worth it. My heart is this. Whew. I think every pastor starts a church, plants a church, goes into ministry because he wants to reach people. I believe they all start like this. But somewhere down the road, you start figuring out that there are certain people in your congregation that give more, and if you kind of make them happy, then they'll stick around a little more, and then you begin to slowly crawl away from God's design and God's will for you and for your church. And eventually you just become this country club where we get together and we kind of make each other happy and we tell each other how our weeks are going, and that's it. And then that's our happy little church time on Sunday for our 1 hour, and then we go out and do whatever. Lord, help me. We will never, ever, 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 ever be that. Ever. I sat with, about 2 months ago, this all started, this new vision and this kind of season of discipleship and where we're headed. And this started with Jeremy and Jeff, our worship leader, and Dimitri was with us, and we were at a conference in Seattle about 2 months ago. And afterwards, we just had this debriefing session for hours, and we prayed together and cried a little bit, and we were just trying to figure out, like, what does God really want with Connections? Because we have this core, and we got these great things happening, but we want more. And amongst that, Jeremy asked this question. It's a great question. He says, well, Dusty, what do you see? Like, what's your end goal for Connections? What is the right number of people that you want to come through the door? In other words, how big do you want to be? And I paused for a moment, and I said this, and I said, Jeremy, I said, I feel like even if we were a church of 3,000 people, we would still be in this room having this discussion. How do we reach more people? How do we reach more people? I don't know if you really believe in heaven and hell, or if it's just something that you keep in the back of your mind because you're scared to really think about it, but I've thought about it. I've put my life on the line for this one truth, that hell is very real and that heaven is amazing. I've put my entire life, I've built my entire life on trying to prove that, that's the wrong word. I spent my entire life just because of that truth, trying to spread the gospel and share Jesus with more people. And if that's true and you're willing to accept it and believe it, that means that the people who live literally a chip shot out the back door, if they don't know Jesus and something happens in the day, they're not going to wake up in heaven. In this big neighborhood behind us, they don't know. And you go down to the South where I grew up, or we were in South Carolina a few weeks back, and everyone goes to church, and everybody knows about Jesus, and everybody understands the gospel, but we're not in that place. And I believe there are people who do not know, and they're literally right next door. And that's got to change. We have got to be willing to risk a little bit of uncomfortableness to let more people know that there is a God who loves them, and there is forgiveness, and you can know God, and he's not just a God for your eternity, he's a God for your here and now, and he can change you and move in you and give you hope and give you purpose and give you desires that are healthy and holy, and he can change you. Starting today, we're moving that direction. How do we reach a few more people? Next week, band, if you want to start heading this direction to close us, that would be great. Next week we're starting a new series, and it's called, If God's Will is So Important, Why Can't I Find It? I know it's a huge title, but that's it. If God's will is so important, why can't I find it? I'm begging you to be here. We've already written the sermon. We're so excited about it. We are going to take 4 steps. We're not just looking at the whole thing in week 1. It's a 4-step process for you to fully understand God's will. If you don't know what God's will for your life is, I promise you, I'm guaranteeing you, if you come, you will understand more of God's will for your life by the end of this series. It is that good. And I don't say that very often, but I just really feel strongly about this series. If you have friends who don't know Jesus, you have friends that are kind of meandering through a spiritual life and they're looking for some purpose and they want to know God's will, next week I asked Mike if we could go ahead and do snacks one more week and that we would invite a few friends, and Mike said he was in on that. So next week we'll have coffee and snacks, and we dive into this new series on the will of God. Please come back. I really do think it's going to be kind of the next step for us now that we had some spiritual growth this last year. This takes us to the next level in what God's called us to.